Hello everyone, my name is Jitendra Bafna. Welcome to my MuleSoft training video. In today's video, we're going to see what is integration. In previous video, we have gone through what is a point-to-point integration. Now we will see how we can use integration to overcome the issues related to point-to-point integration. So first understand what is an integration. The integration means connecting a different system, application, data, software, devices so they can work together and share data smoothly. Instead of each system working in the isolation, integration create a unified flow of information. If you see this diagram, right here you have a middleware and any system want to communicate with other system, they can use the middleware, right? So all the connections and everything are maintained at a middleware. So if you see in the point to point integration, if number of systems grows, right, the number of connection is growing, correct? Here what is happening, even you are adding a new systems, right? So you need to just maintain one connection at a middleware so it can effectively communicate with the other systems in the organization. That is where a integration or middleware is important. So what are the benefits we're going to get from this particular architecture? So first, it's a unified platform, or it's a unified it will ensure the unified flow of the information. We can easily manage the connections, right? And apart from that, like, we can easily scale the system without impacting the other systems, right? So these are the few advantages we are getting when we are using a integration. So let's see, as we discussed in the previous video, what are the problem with the point to point integration. The one of the main problem with the point to point integration, whenever the number of system grows, right, the number of connections also grows, which make your systems, your network very complex, right? It can work fine with two or three systems, but whenever the number of systems increases, the connection grows and it will create a very complex architecture which is very difficult to manage and very difficult to scale. How integration helps? So we can see one of the architecture where we have a hub and spoke integration, where if you see in the middle we have a hub, right, where all systems can connect to the hub and can enable or can establish the communication between the systems. So hub is a central hub where all the systems are connected to the hub to ensure the effective communication between all the systems. So right, so here hub manage the data flow, transformation and the rules. Instead of many connection, each system needs just one connection to the hub, right? So if your system A want to connect to the system D, they can just connect to the hub, and that hub will ensure that system A can connect with the system D. So hub will also ensure the data transformation, like if there are any rules or how to flow the data. So those kind of information can be taken care at a hub. It's a central hub. So for example, like system A can connect to hub, system B can connect to hub, system C can connect to the hub, right? So we just have to maintain this, each system just have to maintain a one connection instead of maintaining too many connections. So now A can talk with B or C through hub, and this approach looks much cleaner and much effective. We talk about the event driven architecture. So event driven integration is just like a newspaper subscription model where publisher send a message, or publisher generate an event or post news, right? And the broker basically distribute that news, correct? So we have an event broker. So we have a producer which produce the event and just send to the event broker. Then we have a subscriber, we can call them as a consumer, it can be anyone, so they can subscribe to the message. So there can be a multiple can subscribe to the same message and do the further processing. For example, e-commerce app publish an order event, order place, right? Then we have an inventory system, we have a shipping system, we have an email system. So all these three systems just subscribe to the same message and do the further processing. For example, email system will like read the message and generate the email to the customer. A shipping system will create a shipment, right? And inventory system will ensure that whatever product has been booked, has been ordered, so it can reduce the stock in the inventory. The then like publisher doesn't want to know who is the listening, right? So you just publish the message to the event broker, right? And publisher doesn't have the information who will going to the consumer message. So this is kind of asynchronous architecture, and it is very effective also, like the producer and consumer are not knowing each other who are publishing the message, right? So why it is useful? It's a loosely coupled, right? It can be scaled easily. So if you want to add more subscriber, you can easily add the subscriber without changing the producer or without changing the event broker. It's a real time, it change spreads instantly. It's a flexible, as I mentioned, you can easily add the subscriber whenever you want. Even you can easily add the more publisher to send the message to the event broker. Now let's talk about the REST API. We're going to talk more about the REST API in the upcoming video. So REST API is nothing like it a way for the two or more application to communicate and the share data over the internet using REST. So REST stand for representational state transfer principle. So but generally REST relies on the some HTTP method, which is like get, post, put, delete. There are more, patch, and usually they exchange the data in the form of JSON, right? So JSON is a lightweight when we compare it to XML. It doesn't mean like you cannot exchange the data in the XML format, but generally when you work with a REST, we exchange the data between the system in the JSON format. I'll give a simple example. Think of the REST API like a waiter in the restaurant, right? The client tell the waiter what you want. So client is nothing, is a consumer, and it will ask waiter what he want basically. The waiter is nothing, it's a kind of API which take your request to the kitchen, which is the system of record basically. The kitchen prepare the food, which is the data, right? And waiter bring it back to you. So it's nothing like you have a API sitting in the middle, right? So you have a client and you have a system of record. So the client will request some kind of data from the backend system. So client will send the request to the API and he will say like retrieve the employee detail. So the API will talk to the backend system, right? Retrieve the employee information and send back to your consumer, right? So instead of each system building or a custom link to talk, they all just use the API menu, correct? So what is advantage? It's universal language. So for writing the API, there are some kind of standards, guidelines, and defined, right? And it also use the HTTP protocol to exchange the information. So there are, like as I mentioned, there are specific HTTP methods, standards, guidelines, and defined for writing a API. Reusable. So as I mentioned, once you have written the API, it can be consumed by the many consumer. If other in future there are other system who also want the employee detail, he can call the same API and fetch or retrieve the employee detail scalable. So if you have a multiple APIs, right? So API can be easily scalable without impacting the other APIs in the system. Loosely coupling, system don't need to know each other, right? It's a loosely coupled. So here is the architecture. The application can contact API. API can connect to the multiple system and retrieve the information and send back to the application. We will talk more in the detail in next video or in the upcoming videos. Okay, yeah. So that is what I want to discuss in today's video. So you got the idea how the integration is useful for ensuring like simple network or simple architecture as compared to the point to point integration. I hope you like the video. If you like the video, please click on like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching.